Kansas got a big upset victory over Oklahoma this weekend, and it showed kind of one thing in particular, and that is that Lance Leipold is the exact opposite of Deion Sanders. Now, when I say that, that doesn't make one right or the other wrong. It doesn't mean anything. It just means that they are on the opposite ends of the spectrum. And I find it fascinating that there are two pathways like that to get to the upper echelons of college football. Lance Leipold grinded and coached for a long time at the Division III level and was as successful as you could be at that level. Several national championships to his credit, but couldn't get an opportunity at the FBS level for a really long time. And it was, I think, abundantly clear that he deserved it. If you can win national championships at Division III, I don't think it's outrageous to think that that person could be successful at Division I too. But there's a natural hierarchy of how you're supposed to rise through the coaching ranks in college football. You start as a position coach. If you start as a graduate assistant, you get a position coach job at the group of 5 level. You eventually become an offensive coordinator. If you are explosive enough or dynamic enough or interesting enough, you get a job at the Power 5 coordinating level. Then maybe you drop back down to the G5 level as a head coach, and then you get a Power 5 job at a low-level Power 5 school before you are then thought of as a candidate at the blue blood level. That's not how it worked for Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders showed up at Colorado from an FCS job because he had name recognition and cachet and a cult of personality and notoriety. Lance Leipold didn't have any of that. Lance Leipold had to spend 10 years toiling, and toiling might not be the right or fair phrase, because I'm certain he wouldn't tell you that, I spent this long amount of time, but he spent 7 years as a Division III head coach. Before that, he was the offensive coordinator at Nebraska Omaha. It doesn't have a football program anymore. So he spent a lot of time at the Division II and Division III level waiting for an opportunity. And it's crazy to me that he had to wait for that. He won 6 national championships in 7 years. 8 years, I guess, technically. 8 years as a Division III head coach. They won 6 national titles. And he had to bide his time to get an FBS job. And the school that made the FBS offer to him was Buffalo. So he had to go to a low-level G5 school to get that opportunity. Whereas Deion Sanders didn't have to work as an assistant at Doane and Wisconsin Whitewater and Nebraska Omaha. He got a head coaching job because he's Deion freaking Sanders. And that's okay. It has obviously worked out well for him, for Jackson State, and so far Colorado. But Lance Leipold had to go the more traditional route, where he started his college coaching career in 1987 and didn't become a head coach till 2007. And after winning 6 national championships, didn't get to become an FBS coach until 2015. And then when he did pretty good stuff at Buffalo for the 6 years he was at Buffalo, they won 10 games. They finished in the top 25 his last season. And even then, after 6 national championships and a top 25 ranking at Buffalo, pretty much the only school that showed any interest in him was Kansas. And how did he reward them? They went 2-10 in his first season. But you know what? They went 6-7 last year and made a bowl game. They got 6 wins already this year. The guy is a proven program builder, just like Deion Sanders is. At Jackson State, Deion Sanders built a program, a verifiable program. At Colorado, I have no doubt that he's going to do the same. There are different avenues for those two guys to do those two things. However, I doubt Lance Leipold will be in a post-game press conference and say, we're going to replace our entire offensive line in the transfer portal. I think that's a really crappy thing for Deion Sanders to say. I think it's a bad, it throws his own players under the bus when you're the one who brought them there. Like, it was your job to get, because his son, Shedeur Sanders, and this is, I think part of the problem is you're jaded not only as a coach, but as a father, that his son's getting beat up because the offensive line of Colorado is just not very good. It's not. And that's okay. They're in the first year of a complete overhaul. I don't think of the position groups that you think are going to be great right out the gate, that one ain't going to be it. But to then in the post-game press conference, when you're asked about it, and say, well, I'm just going to get rid of these guys, it's not a great look. And I can show some admiration for Deion Sanders that he doesn't care whether or not it's a great look, and that's fine. Like, I can generally agree with that. But it's going to be more difficult. Like, if you're an offensive lineman, you want to go play for Deion Sanders? No, not especially. Why would I want to do that? Why would I be interested in that if that's how you're going to be treated? Is, oh, I'm just going to get rid of these guys and we're going to get better guys next year. Okay, thanks. I don't imagine that Lance Leipold is ever going to say that in a press conference. One, because he probably isn't going to do it, but then two, he's not going to mean it. Why are you going to just throw a group of your own offense under the bus? What are you doing that for? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But that's what happened. But there are two paths to the top of the college football world, and I think both Deion Sanders and Lance Leipold are on them. One of them just benefits from the name recognition, the notoriety, the cachet, the cult of personality that accompanies them to Colorado. But both schools were willing to take a chance on somebody. And I think that might be the bigger thing to focus on. And maybe Kansas and Colorado get the opportunity to take a chance on somebody that Ohio State, Oklahoma, Notre Dame, Texas, Alabama, LSU, Florida, Georgia, USC, Washington, Oregon don't get that opportunity. Maybe they don't get the ability to take a chance, because if you're the athletic director and you hire Lance Leipold or you hire Deion Sanders and it goes poorly, it's your ass that's grass. But at Jackson State and Buffalo and Kansas and Colorado, you can afford to take a chance. But I think the best people, the best leaders, the best programs, administrators, whatever, are the ones who are unafraid to take that chance. When you look at a guy who has won 6 national championships, when his records in his head coaching career at his first stop was 109-6, and had 5 undefeated national championship winning seasons, I would find it very difficult to say that, hey, we're taking a chance here. I don't know that you're feeling like, hell, we're really going out on a ledge here. It doesn't feel like that is all that big of a leap of faith, and yet there weren't many that were willing to do it. There are opposite ends of the spectrum. One is kind of nondescript, just goes about his business and is building a winner at a place where it is difficult to build a winner. And the other is very in your face, loud, flamboyant, some would say obnoxious, and is also building a winner where it has been shown over the course of the last 2 decades that it's been difficult to do. There isn't just one path to the top. And I think that's what makes college football really fun. So Sunday's episode that we uploaded here to the old YouTube and to the podcast feed did not go well. So sorry about that, technical difficulties. I hadn't known that at the time, so that's my bad. So I'll give you the Sunday Stiff Arm Trophy update on a Monday. How about that? So Michael Penix Jr. will remain at the top of my Heisman Trophy ballot for the time being. I told you, by the way, part of me, I don't want to be like, no, I told you, but I do. I told you that Stanford was going to play Washington tough because Stanford is scrappy now. Nobody wants to be called scrappy, but they are tough. And Washington struggled with them for a little bit. For a long bit, actually. Michael Penix Jr., though, still throws 4 touchdowns as long as Washington remains undefeated, or as long as Washington remains in the college football playoff conversation. And unless Michael Penix Jr. gets hurt, he's going to be in New York. It's going to happen. I moved Marvin Harrison Jr. up to my number 2 spot. And when I think you have to have a Heisman Trophy kind of philosophy almost. And my philosophy a lot of times has been, how bad would that team be without this player? How bad would Washington be without Michael Penix Jr.? If they had a baseline average Pac-12 quarterback, they're still pretty good. Like, they're still an 8-4 team, maybe a 9-3 team. They're still pretty good. How good is Ohio State without Marvin Harrison Jr.? They're still pretty good. But are they undefeated and potentially the number 1 team in the college football playoff rankings when they come out tomorrow? No, they are not. They 100% are not undefeated without Marvin Harrison Jr. And again, I will pound the table on this. He is the best college football player in the country. He is better at playing wide receiver than anybody is at being a quarterback, a running back, offensive lineman, defensive lineman, whatever the position may be. He is better than anybody else is at their given position. And I want to get back to, and I will die on the hill of, the trophy should be given to the best football player in college football rather than the quarterback of the best team. So and that's what I think. JJ McCarthy is the leader in the clubhouse right now in Vegas betting to win the Heisman Trophy, because 8 times out of 10, the trophy goes to the quarterback of the best team. And I don't want to see that happen. I don't want to see, just because you're the quarterback of the number 1 team in America, like the fact that Stetson Bennett was a Heisman Trophy finalist is dumbfounding to me. It doesn't make a lick of sense. He wasn't the best quarterback in the state of Georgia. How in the world is he the best player in college football, or one of the best players in college football? It doesn't make any sense. So Marvin Harrison Jr. is the best football player in college football right now. So he would be my number 2. And then I think Bo Nix has worked his way into the top 3. What he has done at Oregon and where he has come from with that program, they didn't lose to Washington because of him. And Oregon's going to stay on the fringe there of the college football playoff conversation. And the reason is because Bo Nix is pretty good. Where would Oregon be without Bo Nix? I don't think they'd be ranked in the top 10. And I don't think that's outrageous to say. I think it's pretty clear that he is propelling them to where they are right now. And I think that should mean something. So 2 Pac-12s and a Big Ten in my top 3. Again, I'm not a Heisman Trophy voter, but I'd like to be. So we'll see what we can do to get that set up and arranged. Nothing. I can do nothing. It's not going to happen by me sitting here on this podcast being like, what would be cool is. That's just not going to happen. So the first college football playoff rankings come out tomorrow. I'll give you my top 4 tomorrow. And I'm not going to clickbait you and be like, the order might surprise you. I'll just tell you who I think the 4 best teams in the country are, and we'll probably discuss what should go into the rankings. How should they be ranked? Should it be best resume, most deserving, best team? We'll have that discussion tomorrow here on the Daily Huddle. Appreciate you making us a part of your day, however it is, wherever it is you're doing so. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you're getting all the great college football content we're pumping out here at Saturday Glory. If you're listening on the podcast, drop a 5-star review. It goes a really long way in helping us get in front of more college football fans. We'll be back at it tomorrow here on the Daily Huddle.